With the coming of the COVID-19 pandemic during the early spring of March and a nationwide quarantine issued, millions of students and teachers, myself included, found our classes moved from campus and into our living space. Ironically, it is through the pandemic that some issues in school and education have been brought to light. One such was the inequity with online access, as while many schools provided their students with school laptops, schools do not consider the idea that not every household has access to the internet or have any knowledge of navigating the web safely. However, another thing that's been revealed is in the classroom. There is a lack of experience many instructors and faculties have with internet applications and technology. No, I'm not implying that teachers have never touched the web before. Obviously, most if not all of them at least done Google or YouTube. The issue I want to point out was that many of them did not take advantage of the endless resources the internet and the electronic media had to offer for their online classrooms. Aside from using program applications provided to them by the school, there's many instructors that persist in teaching their online classes with just lectures and PowerPoints. However, such practices have often proven to be dull and tiring for many students to sit through, both in person and online, which often lead them to tuning out or finding other activities to entertain themselves during lecture. Class engagement has always been an existing problem for instructors and is something that likely won't go away. However, in this video, I will be talking about one way online media can be used to spur on class engagement. And as you may have already guessed from the title, I'll be applying the concept of Chora graphy to encourage engagement in first year composition. So, let's begin. To understand Chora graphy, we must first look at the concept it originally derived from, choreography. Coined by Gregory Ulmer, choreography is a way of mapping an individual's sense of place and memory. Thus, it is subjective and open to interpretation. In simpler terms, individuals draw their own interpretation and connection to those triggered memories and place through critical analysis. How does that happen? Well, according to Ulmer, there is no recipe for choreography. Rather, choreography creates an environment for individuals to feel an invention that is both sparked by a punctum and remembered by the body. An easy example would be a photograph. To some individuals, they see the image for what it is, but to others, they may see more than just the image. They may experience a sort of nostalgia or a punctum, a sting, with the photograph acting as a space for the individual to draw connections of it, with other experiences in their life to give the image a new meaning or interpretation. April O'Brien's choreography, on the other hand, is an extension of Gregory Ulmer's choreography, a theory of metaphysical invention in spaces and places. Although choreography loosely practices spatialized invention, it is foremost a methodology that reorients place and public memory as a measure to resist any controlling space-place narratives and meaning-making practices that ignore other cultural histories and considerations. In layman's term, readdressing or reinventing the dominant narrative of a landmark, structure, or site, with a critical examination towards the place, the different races involved, and the public's memory. An example of choreography being used is O'Brien's observation of the Pendleton's sign marker. The sign divulges us a brief history of the town's origin, and it appears to have an honest making. However, O'Brien saw it differently. This marker depicts a sanitized history that, instead of referring to slavery as a direct corollary of the aristocratic family's lifestyle, or referring to plantations, uses a rhetoric of deflection to avoid this uncomfortable fact. O'Brien pointing out that the town marker only chose to acknowledge whatever history befits a good image for it, and while refusing to acknowledge its darker history. In doing so, she gives new meaning to the sign as one that exempts and molds its own history. And as Adam Lofton and Emmanuel Vaughan Lee's discussion of countermapping, a concept applied in choreography resisting dominant narratives of mapped sites, they argued in their article. Such maps are widely assumed to convey objective and universal knowledge of place. They are intended to orient us, to tell us how to get from here to there. to show us precisely where we are, but modern maps hold no memory of what the land was before. Often, we are given the dominant narrative, the selected story of a landmark or site, and are expected to digest it as it is. However, we are not always given a full history about them, lest we do our own research into them, some of which could be dark, like how both the mountain of which Mount Rushmore been carved on and the Grand Canyon made a tour site held spiritual significance for Native American tribes. How many of you knew that? I didn't until I looked into them. Moving forward, how can choreography be applied into classrooms? More specifically, how can it be applied in first-year composition and be made engaging? And what are the benefits of using choreography? Choreography can be made into a group assignment or class activity. Inspired by O'Brien's example of choreography being practiced by African American communities, and Jacob Richter's landmark analysis project assignment that my professor linked our class to, so I thought to borrow on some of their ideas and tailor them together towards making an online activity or assignment that would more so keep class engagement in mind. For this kind of assignment, students could be split into small groups. The assignment would be that students will be constructing their own virtual sightseeing tour of various landmarks or locations of their choosing. In applying choreography, students will have to critically analyze and provide their own reinterpretation of their landmarks or sites. Now, as for what kind of application they be using, while there is plentiful of map editing sites and apps to look at, I recommend using Google's My Map. Functioning similarly to Google Map, the program is simple to use. If you need to find a landmark or site, you can use the My Map search function. Once you found it, you can drop a pin on the location. From there, you can edit the pin. Students can post an image of the landmark or site and post their own reinterpretation of the spot in the text box below. However, if your students are feeling creative and don't want to write, they also can create their own video reinterpreting the spot and upload it to My Maps. And like most Google apps, such as Google Doc and Slide, they can be shared and multiple students can work on the map at the same time. Once they are finished, students could present their work to the class, taking their peers on a tour, giving their critical take on their spots. Alright, so how would this apply to first year composition? Well, rather than analyzing a text, students would be analyzing an object or site, paying attention to stuff like their pose, the history of their construction, its significance to certain communities as they make their interpretation of the object or place. Being able to critically think and make strong analysis on subject through supporting evidence and research are essential skills that is taught in first year composition. What I think that makes this assignment more engaging is that you're giving your students free rein on what they can choose to make their interpretation on, as well as the different kind of medium they can use to express them. In an article titled Tap into Visual Analysis of Customization of Grouping of Activities in E-Learning, the authors argued, when the objective is to answer a specific question, numerical analysis is appropriate for confirmatory analysis, but when one does not seek a specific answer, visual analysis is more effective because it allows for an interactive exploration and satisfaction of curiosity, which numerical analysis does not permit. And I highly agree with the statement. Making visual analysis of the landmark or sites is, as I said earlier, gives free rein to students to make their own reinterpretation of those points of interest. Students can freely engage and reinvent meanings of those landmarks and sites through their own work. And that's what I think applying choreography in this way in first year composition will make learning more engaging and interesting. And with that concludes my video. There's still a plethora of other media and concepts that can be used to making classroom more engaging, and most especially for writing classes. It's just a matter of looking at the possibilities media can be used for beyond its consumption. This is Victor Chiv from Professor Sarah Arroyo's English 537, tuning out. Ciao.